Good evening, folks. Welcome back to the channel. It is a rare Sunday live stream. It's a Q&A. You've been sending your questions in over the last couple of days. I've gone through them and picked some out, but because it's a live stream, you can give us your comments while you're watching the video in the live chat. All you have to do is subscribe to take part in that. First of all, before we get into it, please like the video if you're on the stream just now. The more likes we get, the more viewers we can get on as we go through. Probably be with you for the next half an hour or so. I suppose we should start with a recap on yesterday's game. I've had the chance to watch the highlights back. I thought it was maybe a better performance than I gave it credit for outside the ground. Again, at Ross County, when the ball's up the other end first half, it's sometimes really difficult to see what's happening at times. Ross County goalkeeper did have a string of good saves in the game. And I thought, given the conditions in the pitch, which I touched on yesterday, we actually played some good stuff. I think we responded well to losing the equaliser, and I think that we were more than deserving winners. And actually, to get the couple of late goals, to put the gloss on it, did sort of reflect the dominance. I think the Ross County goalkeeper, for all the good saves that he made, he'll probably be disappointed with the one for Kyogo's header where he gets a hand to it, but other than that, I think he really did keep the scoreline down for them. And listen, we take the points, and I think going to Ross County is always a difficult game. We moved 18 points clear, it's back to 15 now, where Rangers win this afternoon, but they're still an absolute meltdown about that, which I'm enjoying watching unfold. And we move on to Dundee on Tuesday, which is another away game for us before Kilmarnock in the Scottish Cup on Saturday back at Celtic Park. Again, it's just about navigating our way through the rest of this league season. Now we're going to come to one of the questions in a minute about how the team goes through the rest of the season and how the expectation of supporters, does it change now in terms of what constitutes a good season, given that we're so far ahead this early on. So we're going to talk about that and a lot more. So we'll get into the questions. I can see lots of you already starting to ask some questions in the live chat. Again, I'll get to those, but I've also got some picked out that you've been sending in the last couple of days as well. So I'll try and get to as many as I can. If you ask one and I miss it, apologies. But I can't get to them all, or we'll be here all night. So we'll start with Jamie McCowan. Shout out Jamie, by the way, he's one of the first people to comment on every single video. So really appreciate the support. What is your favourite European away trip from Champions League, UEFA Cup, Europa League? Well, if you've been watching any of the European away content this season, you'll know that I have been on 13 European away trips, and I've got 0 wins. I've got 4 draws, 9 defeats, and there's been lots of brilliant trips in there, but it's just a shame that none of them have coincided with a Celtic victory yet. So I can see Liam asking, did you go to Copenhagen? No, I didn't, and I didn't go to Rome the first time either, which is the one that everybody went to. I think there's about 10,000 Celtic fans there to see Celtic get a rare win away from home in Europe. I wasn't one of them. If I look through the list, lots of good ones. I really loved Shakhtar away in Warsaw, even though the game itself was a bit strange because it wasn't their home stadium. I loved that, and we got a point for the game. There's been lots of brilliant stadiums to see, the Bernabeu, Atletico Stadium, but we got absolutely trounced on both of those occasions. Been to Leipzig a couple of times, which was good. It was brilliant to see the Dortmund, to live the Dortmund experience earlier on in the season, but obviously, again, that was an absolute trouncing for us, so it's best forgot. It's really hard to pinpoint a favourite. I liked the first one I went on, which is before I was even on the channel, which was 2017, I think, 2018, Bayern Munich away. That was a great trip as well, and I loved that stadium. That's probably my favourite stadium that I've been to see Celtic in. But I'm going to go for Bergamo, for Atalanta, because I really loved Bergamo as a place, and we got a point. We got a really good result, which is rare. And I think we were all, anybody that was over in Italy for that game was panicking after Dortmund, and we thought we could go and get another hiding, but it was a really good result. And as I say, Bergamo was a place that I really, really loved. So if you've never been, I would definitely recommend going, as I said at the time. So next up, Goody 2 views. What are your views on some kind of ticket exchange scheme for Celtic Park? Empty seats do my nothing. Aye, I think empty seats do everybody's not in. The club's in this circumstance where they sell nearly every home game out because of the number of season tickets there is, and the fact that the single match day tickets then get snapped up and there's not too many of them. But of course, then you have a situation where on any given game you could have 1,000, 2,000, maybe more sometimes for some of the games in the winter against lesser opposition where those season ticket holders just don't turn up, and those seats are empty. And it does take away from the fact that the game's a sellout, and it does detract from, I suppose, maybe the atmosphere, and it restricts some people from getting a chance to go to the game. So I think that's something the club should be looking at. I'm sure it's not an easy thing. I'm sure it's got complexity to it. I know lots of other clubs around the country do them. I know Everton have one, for example, and you and me could just go on and see if there's any tickets available on the exchange and get some to go and see a game. So that is something the club, I think, should look at. I think they will have been looking at it for a long time. But why it doesn't exist yet, I don't know. As I say, there might be something there the club don't like about it, that we're not aware of. But I think it's definitely something that I would like to see. I'm going to take a break for these lined up questions and try and get into some of the live chat ones that have been asked so far. Chris Hogg, do you think it's worth giving Greg Taylor the extra 10 grand a week he's asking for, rather than spending a fee and wages on a replacement that might be a dud, as nearly every left back has been? We've gone through a lot of left backs at the club. There's no doubt about that. Over the last best part of 10 years, we've had a lot of left backs. None of them have really made a long-term success, other than Greg Taylor, you'd have to say. Kieran Tierney, of course, but he wasn't a signing that we brought to the club as such. We brought him through the youth system. So we have had a lot of failure signings at left back. It's a difficult one for Greg Taylor because he has been here a long time now. He's been here five years, I think it is, and I think every player has a natural cycle at every football club, and it does come to an end at some stage. And I think for Greg Taylor, if he's thinking about coming into his peak years, 27, 28, trying to get as good a contract as he can, which he should do, as every footballer should do. It's a short career. I think he might be considering his position at Celtic in terms of, is he going to be first choice? Can he get the money that he wants from Celtic? And does he maybe just fancy a new challenge? I think Greg Taylor's been a good player for Celtic. There's absolutely no two ways about that. I think that's what history will show, and I think rightly so, he'll be remembered as a good player. Don't get me wrong. I know that he's always been criticised, particularly at European level, and even Brendan Rodgers made that reference in that press conference a couple of weeks ago about Champions League level, which I don't think was necessary for the manager to make, but we won't get into that again. I think Greg Taylor, for all his shortcomings, has been a brilliant player. His attitude, his commitment, his professionalism, and I think how he was revitalised when Ange Postecoglou came to the club, and he's been a first team starter in multiple league titles. I think 2 trebles. I think maybe another one to come this season. Who knows? I don't know. I wouldn't mind him staying. I think obviously we're looking at Tierney. I think whether he wants to stay as whether it's backup or a second left back, whatever it may be, I don't know. I just don't see it, given the fact that he's at that stage of his career. He's been at Celtic for so long. I don't think he's going to fancy spending half the season on the bench. Do you think getting Champions League again next season helps us secure the 10 in a row? Those chants have came back the last couple of weeks, which I think we've all enjoyed, having a laugh at Rangers and their predicament. I think the Champions League, given that we need to navigate one qualifying round next season, is going to be difficult. Who knows what kind of teams we'll end up getting in that scenario, but I think it might well get more difficult in the seasons to come after that. So just focusing on the Champions League, forget about the domestic stuff. We might be going towards a period of time where Champions League qualification becomes a bit rarer, the way it was sort of if you go back 10 years, just over 10 years ago, before Rodgers came to the club the first time, where we really struggled to navigate knockout qualification rounds, we could end up in that situation again. I think getting Champions League football is always good for us domestically, because to even try and compete at that level, we need to put ourselves in a position where we're so far ahead of everybody domestically, and that stands us in good stead for as many in a row as you want. So we'll get back to some of the questions that came in before the live stream. The best striker since Larsson debate, Kyogo or Edouard, who are you picking? Also, do you have any memories when you were young of watching Larsson play? This is like, I don't need to answer this question about who's the best since Larsson. Everybody knows that it's Kyogo for me. I think the record would show that in terms of goals against Rangers, goals in cup finals, and I suppose a lot of it's about preference and what kind of player you prefer. And Edouard was brilliant for us, don't get me wrong, he's right up there. If we were to make a list, I would say Edouard's probably just in second place in those best strikers since Larsson. I think Kyogo has been amazing. It was brilliant to see him getting the score sheet yesterday, and in hindsight, actually, I was maybe a wee bit quick to wonder why he didn't celebrate quite with his usual enthusiasm. I know that he did at the end and stuff, as he always does when he starts the song at the end. But watching the post-match interview that he did with Sky, and credit to him, by the way, for doing that broadcast interview a wee bit in English. Credit to him for that. He seemed really, really annoyed about the chances that he missed in the game. Maybe that was why we didn't get the usual sort of trademark celebrations from him. But he's hands down the best for me, and I was a bit bemused by the sort of debate when he's had dips and form recently about people just dismissing that as if it was never the case. When he was in his best form for Celtic, it was almost like an open and shut case that everybody had agreed he was the best. But as well, no doubt about it. Next up, just you, calm down, son. Considering how far we are ahead in the league and how dominant we are domestically, how important is a young boys' game in defining our season? So this is the question I was touching on earlier. Given the 15-point lead we've got at the top of the table, the Champions League is obviously a big thing for us this season. We're in such a brilliant position, but we need to go and secure a playoff place to really consider it as progress. I think that's the thing the manager said at the start. I think that's the thing that us fans, particularly given the draw we got, that's what we wanted. We wanted to at least secure a playoff place, and I think we've done well until now. I know that the Club Brugge game was a really tricky one for us, but I think coming back to this next home game now against Young Boys, it is huge. And to finish off what the commenters saying here, I'd be delighted with a league win, elated with a treble, but I feel like not qualifying in the Champions League would represent a small failure, and the rest of the season would feel a bit routine. I know how ridiculous that sounds, but I just want to see us succeed at a high level. I think we all want to see us succeed in Europe. That's the big thing everybody's been talking about for a long, long time. We've got a brilliant chance to sort of take the next step, I suppose. I know it's a new format, so it's not like we could have done something like this before, but the young boys game is huge, and I think the thing with having this sort of lead so early on is that sometimes you don't get that big moment where, right, you've won the league. Obviously, hopefully we're going to get to that place where there's a big game, might even be against Rangers. That would be lovely, but sometimes when you've got such a commanding lead, you just tick off the games in a routine manner, and you don't get that same elation as when the league's been quite tight, like we've had maybe once or twice in the last few years. But we'll see how it goes. I think the young boys game is massive for us, just in terms of solidifying that progress that we think we've made in the competition this season. It's absolutely huge, and the next couple of games domestically should hopefully help us gear up towards that. Again, please like the stream. Thank you for staying with us. We're about halfway through. The more likes we get, the more people we can get on. Trying to jump back into the live chat to pick out some good questions. Kyogo seemed to thrive on the position he played yesterday. Do you think he might play there more and have Vida up front? I was interested to see how that went yesterday. I thought he might put McCowan to the right-hand side and then play Yang left, but he put Kyogo on the right-hand side, and I thought Kyogo showed all his qualities. I think his passing range that I touched on after the game, it was brilliant for that position. He obviously really understands the kind of service a striker wants, but he's also got the quality and the intelligence to play that position, and I think he did it really well. I don't know if it's going to be something long term. Obviously, when the wingers come back in, the wingers have been the best players for us this season. Kuhn's probably first in the line for Player of the Year and Maeda's second. So I think when they're back fit, they'll come back into the team and we'll play in the formation and the style that we've been playing in all season. And who can really argue that? But it's sometimes nice when injuries force you into a situation where you play somebody out of position and then you see the benefits of that. And maybe that performance yesterday for Kyogo can kick his season on and help him find some form again. Right, JFE 1983. If you could change one rule in football, what would it be? Mine would be that the player fouled in the box must be the penalty taker. Not great when Yang is the one fouled, to be fair. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I don't know, but that's a bit like basketball, isn't it? Whoever's fouled needs to go and hit the free throws. So I'm not sure about that one. I think that you don't get penalties that often in a game. So if it just so happened that, say, a centre half was fouled in a big game at a corner and he ended up with a penalty and he had to take it, I think that'd be a huge disadvantage for the attacking team. The one rule change that I would like to see in the game, and it really infuriates me when I'm at games in the crowd, especially for Celtic, it happens all the time. When a player is fouled on a counter attack, you should be allowed to take the free kick as quickly as you want. The referee can't blow the whistle and tell you to stop while he writes down the player's name to book him and the time, whatever he wants to write down, to slow the game down, because that's like double punishment. The fouler has taken away the opportunity to counter attack, and you can't keep going. You can't keep the pace in the attack. I've actually heard Gary Lineker talk about this, and he thinks that the attacker should actually even be allowed to just sit the ball down and dribble it if it's a cynical foul on a counter attack. I quite like that, and it would allow the game to flow, because so often nowadays I think there's a lot of fouls and counter attacks, and it takes all the momentum away for the attacking team, but also just really slows the game down, and the referee has to make a big show of it and stop everything, and nobody can take it quickly, and it just really ruins that part of the game. And I think, given how tactical and slow the game has become in certain ways, I think allowing counters to flow would be a really good improvement that we could make. Michael Boyle, how will we deal with Kyogo leaving us one day? It'll be like Larsson leaving for me. Don't know how I'll cope. I don't want to talk too much about Kyogo leaving, because I did it a bit last week with that MLS stuff, and I think a lot of people were maybe accusing me of making more of it than there was. I would keep Kyogo forever, as I'm sure you're all aware. I'm not looking forward to him leaving. I've said hands down, I've said it before, he's the player that's brought me the most joy for Celtic since Henrik Larsson. And I know I've already had a question about Larsson. There's another one coming. I didn't get the chance to talk about the times I watched Larsson play as a kid. So I'm 31. I was born in 1993. So I feel very fortunate that right around that age of 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, first falling in love with football and falling in love with Celtic, that Henrik Larsson was my hero, because I think lots of people grow up at different times and they'll never have a player of that level to look up to. Lots of memories for seeing him as a kid. One of the ones that stands out, actually, and it's not a good one, but I remember going to a game and he was on the bench one day against Motherwell, and I was absolutely gutted, because when you go to the game as a kid, you just want to see your favourite player. And he started the game on the bench. I actually think we drew one each. He came off the bench and scored a glancing header from a corner. But that's something that always stands out to me, because every time I went to a game when I was a kid, I just wanted to see Larsson. And that one, when he didn't play, is always standing out for me. Next, Graham Tyrrell, with Rodgers changing formations due to injuries. Do you think it's something we need to do more often? I've kind of touched on that already with a live stream comment question. I don't think it's going to be something that he does long term. He's maybe stumbled upon something and I suppose he deserves credit for getting that right yesterday. In terms of putting Kyogo out there, it really did work well. He was obviously playing from the right hand side, but he did go up and become a second striker at points in the game. And I think the way he moved and the way he rotated, sort of going in there with Ida and then coming back out to the right hand side was really good. I just don't see it being something that we'll do more often during games when 4-3-3 isn't working, or the usual setup isn't working. Maybe it could be. I know a lot of people sometimes cry out for two strikers to be on the pitch. Maybe that's a way of getting them on the pitch, because Kyogo's got the intelligence to sort of drift out wide, but still be in those central areas at the right time to score goals. Right, next up, how do you, Callum, and Kenny, and the rest of the guys know each other? Everybody that you see on this channel, I know from doing the channel. If you have watched this channel from the beginning, you'll know that we just used to talk to as many random people as possible outside the ground after the game. And all the guys you see in the channel regularly now, they initially just spoke to me, just stopped and spoke to me randomly at a game. I think that's a real strength of the channel, because it's authentic, and those guys just love talking about Celtic. They're really good at it as well, and now they're the regular guys, and I think it makes for better content, because I can reliably guarantee the quality of it, because I know the guys are good, and it's good for I think you as the viewers to hear from them regularly, rather than just rolling the dice and trying to pluck random people after every game. What's been your favourite kits from Adidas these last few years, and would you like them to continue manufacturing? I personally love the training gear since they took over. There's been some beautiful away kits, but I'm not too sure on the home tops. Favourite Adidas kit? That first year, ironically enough, the kits that are condemned forever because of the COVID season, all three of them were absolutely magnificent. I loved the home kit, the sort of thin hoops. It was minimal. The green one was brilliant as well, the sort of lime green one. I love day kits. I'd say they're probably, just aesthetically as kits, they're the best that Adidas have produced. The last couple of home kits, for me, I've not been a huge fan of. I know I think we're going to Adidas Elite. That's the rumour next season, that we're going to Adidas Elite, and we've extended the partnership with them. Hopefully that means we get some nicer stuff. Obviously, the thing with it, probably going to Elite makes it even more expensive, and it is already an absolute fortune. So that's difficult for people that want to buy the jerseys and support the team. It keeps getting more expensive, as it does across the board for all football clubs. But I'd say, just as kits, those first Adidas ones of the COVID season, probably my favourite, even though now they're cancelled forever. Right, this is the last question I've got lined up for the last couple of days that somebody sent in. Excluding Henrik Larsson, considering the players we currently have and how we play under Rodgers, who is the one former Celtic player from your time watching the club that you would think would be the biggest positive addition to our starting 11? That's a tough question. I suppose the two that jump to my mind and my time watching Celtic as the best players, and maybe who have qualities that we don't currently have in the team, are probably Wanyama and Van Dijk. I know that Carter Vickers has been brilliant for us, and Trusty's just in the door, and Scales is there as well. But obviously, I think Van Dijk alongside Carter Vickers would be absolutely incredible. I know that he wasn't quite the player that he went on to become when he was at Celtic, but he was still absolutely brilliant, Virgil van Dijk, for us, and he was head and shoulders above everybody, certainly domestically for us. But Victor Wanyama, I suppose, as a destroyer in midfield, he's a player that he's almost a prototype for the supporters to say, we need a Wanyama style player, and he was brilliant. I think, again, when you get into Europe, somebody like Wanyama is absolutely massive, and I know we don't quite have those qualities, and maybe that's talking about Rodgers' style. Callum McGregor underpins the whole Rodgers style, and he's been amazing for us, Callum McGregor. So maybe not now at this stage in his career, but certainly earlier he could maybe have moved up one, and we could have had a Wanyama type in the sixth position. But I think those are probably the two players that could have the biggest effect on this team, because it's the qualities that we maybe don't have in abundance at the minute. So I just want to flag up a live stream question which I've seen coming in at the start from Lofi, saying, where is the world famous Callum? When are you going to start a weekly podcast, sit down couch style, for us to enjoy with weekly guests? Maybe very soon. Things are in the works, so stay tuned. I'm going to make some changes to the studio over the course of the next few weeks, and there's a few ideas about how to bring you more sort of long form content. So definitely stay tuned for that. And the world famous Callum, he's been quiet. He's been quiet since I think the last time he was on was the Derby. Maybe we'll get him back on next weekend, I think. Not Dundee during the week. Maybe Callum will come back on, and if he's watching, he can let us know. Maybe he'll come back on for the Scottish Cup game against Kilmarnock at the weekend. So that is it for the Sunday Q&A. I suppose we've got a few minutes left before I round up. If you want to fire any last minute questions, there's Colin saying Nakamura would work wonders in this present squad. Nakamura and Moravchik are the two players that always come up in those debates about if you could take a player from another team and put them in this team, who would it be? Somebody else making a great point about Petrov. He's another one in terms of the sort of strength and running power in midfield and ability to score goals as well. So Nakamura, absolutely. I would love to have Nakamura in this team, but I just think we've actually maybe replaced... not replace Nakamura in any way, but Nakamura's big strength is obviously the set piece delivery, and Engels doing well with set piece delivery. All right, not directly from free kicks, but I think Engels is probably the best corner taker that we've had since Nakamura. So let me try and just pick one last one before we round off. Michelle is asking, what is your thoughts on Johnny Kenny playing more often? A lot of you have asked that, actually. I've seen a few questions coming in about Johnny Kenny after his appearance yesterday. I think he could definitely play the role Brendan Rodgers wants of a third striker. It's really difficult, and I know we've talked a lot about the strikers this season in terms of their lack of impact or lack of prolific goal scoring numbers this season. And the two of them are really good in their own right. But I just don't think there's any way that we can go and sign another striker, because how can you justify to a striker coming here that he's going to play any minutes? Because Kyogo is probably first choice, and he does really share in the minutes. As a third choice striker going to get the same amount of minutes, it would need to be a younger player, somebody that's happy to try and bide their time, develop, try and work their way into the squad. Maybe Johnny Kenny fits that bill, but again, it will come down to whether or not he thinks that for this time in his career, he can spend long spells on the bench at Celtic for the opportunity to try and break in. Because I think every player gets to an age where they think, right, I need to leave and just play week in and week out now. It doesn't matter if I'm at a big club. My career's going to get sidetracked if I don't just take the leap and maybe move down, so just to ensure that I play first team minutes every single week. But I think he did all right yesterday. I think he had a positive influence in the game, and I'd like to see more of him. Maybe he can play that role from now to the end of the season. Maybe some cup appearances off the bench, he can try and make an impression. But I think he could play that role, not a problem. Michael's saying same again next Sunday. Possibly. I do want to do these sort of things more often, so we'll pencil it in for next Sunday, so keep your eyes peeled. And if I've missed any of your questions tonight, I'll try and get to them next week or whenever the next Q&A rolls around. So that's it for tonight. Again, please like the video if you haven't already. I'll be back with you tomorrow for the starting 11 for that trip to Dundee on Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining me on this Sunday evening. Have a great week, and I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.